Night. 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 nine, 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 Night. 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 Night.
check. Hello there, everybody. Just a moment here while I pull up my socials. I hope that everybody's having a good Sunday. The chat party's on Twitch today. Okie dokie. Thanks for bearing with me, everybody. So today, as you might be able to tell by the camera angle, is a very special episode. It's not a Sunday Massive. We're not going to be dealing with any huge patches. Today, we're looking at a Mother 32. 5 years ago, I got a Mother 32. It was my first modular synthesizer, and I'd actually had synthesizers I'd been around them my whole life. I'd had a couple. I always enjoyed making music to relax, and I had a couple. I had a Roland or two. It was nothing special, but this is the first modular synthesizer I ever owned. I actually sold my drum kit to get it. And I had a Mother 32. And this was 5 years ago. And this is that Mother 32. And when I got it home, what I quickly realized is half the time it didn't make noise. There were things I could find on it that I'm like, hey, it stopped making noise. What a crappy synthesizer, right? I was so confused. And over the past week, I've actually ran into a couple people who are starting with the, what's it called? The Moog sound system. Here, tilt my camera a little bit. The whole Moog sound system. And so I know from being someone who got this as their first synthesizer that while it is a great synthesizer for starting with, while it is a good synthesizer for really anyone, all skill levels, when I got it, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I said, right now, it's not even really... Like, how do I know what these knobs do? So, I've tried a couple times to create media which explains all of synthesis from the perspective of a Mother 32. And on this explanuary, I'm going to take you, the viewer, from knowing absolutely nothing about how to use a synthesizer to using the patch bay of the Mother 32. You're going to go from synth noob to synth sorcerer in however long this takes. So, let's stop wasting time. Let's get started. I'm just going to go knob for knob. If you have a Mother 32 in front of you, go get one. You're probably watching this on a VOD, so pause the video, go get it, plug it in, get it so you can listen to it. And we'll get started. So let's just jump right into it. We're going to learn synthesis on the Mother 32. This is a little keyboard. You can kind of see it, can't you? We have the black keys up here and the white keys down here. Girls. So, first knob, frequency. You've probably figured that one out on your own, let's be honest. It's the frequency of the note. Easy. The VCO wave is also something that's easy to notice. In fact, I'm going to blow open the filter for this. So you're ready for it? So the VCO wave changes the wave that's heading through the main... It's the sound that you are hearing. This is what a square wave sounds like. I'm just going to go ahead and use a switch I haven't covered yet, but just here. This is a square wave. This is what a square wave sounds like, and as a musician, that's really all you need to be concerned with at this point. And this is what a triangle? That was a saw. This is what a saw wave sounds like. A little bassier, a little less buzzy. So one of the first mysteries you'll probably run into on the Mother 32 is the pulse width knob. So let's turn that back on. Now it may sound like it's doing nothing. That's because it is. Wish somebody told me pulse width in synthesis generally only applies to square waves. So that sound wave that's moving in a saw that we're hearing here doesn't have a pulse width, at least none that people tend to care about modulating. However, when we have the square wave that we're listening to in the oscillator, sounds video gamier, right? Well, we call it a square wave, but it doesn't need to be equidistant. It doesn't need to be a square wave. It could be more of a not triangle. That's a triangle wave. It could be more of a rectangle. So let's do that. And what you're hearing there is very thin squares, very thin square waves that are just the bottom and the top and then go in a straight line up and down, oscillating incredibly fast to the point where we can hear it. In fact, let me turn it down a bit so we might be able to hear the individual squares. There we go. You know what? We can go lower. Oh, that is a sickening noise. I'm so sorry. But you can kind of hear it. This is very regular, a very regular exchange going on here. Up, down, like ticks. And that's a very thin square at the end where both the up and the down are happening so close to each other that it sounds like one click. Separating them again. And here. So let's bring it back up. Sounds really cool at audio rates, right? So, one thing that causes the Mother 32 to not make noise, unfortunately, is if you have your mod source set to... whatever the mod source is set to, and the VCO mod amount has something on it, that's the one below the pulse width. As mentioned before, okay, so actually let me take a moment here because I'm about to explain something very, very important. I cannot stress how important this is. Let's listen again to what it sounds like when I turn the pulse width knob. Great sound, right? So, wouldn't it be cool if instead of needing to play it like this, if I could get something to turn that knob for me? And this is the foundation of synthesis, especially modular synthesis, but synthesis, which is using a synthesizer to turn the knobs for you. So you may have noticed this little light going on and off at the bottom here. This is called an LFO. Don't worry too much about it at the moment, but just know that this means something. This light going on and off. It's high when it's bright and it's down when it's low. In fact, I can show you something cool. Remember when I was talking about how a square wave is either at the top or the bottom and nowhere in between? You'll notice we have an LFO wave too. Let's visualize what a square wave looks like real quick. You know, it's like just blinking. And then if we go to a triangle wave, it's kind of fading in and out instead. So, the Mother 32 actually has a way on the panel to make this light turn the pulse width knob for us as I play a note. And the way that you do that is twofold. What we do is the VCO mod source, the source of the voltage that's going to be turning this knob for us, needs to come from the LFO, this blinking light here. We'll get to this knob when we get to the, we'll get to this switch when we get to the switch. However, the reason it's not happening right now, even though I have it saying, hey, have the LFO, this right here, control this knob, nothing's happening because the VCO mod amount is at 0. Right here. So let's turn that up and see what it sounds like. And you notice the sound cutting out. That's something that stymied me so much when I first started with the Mother 32. What that did is it's effectively moving the knob into a position where I can't even move the knob. It's moving the knob so that those squares moving up and down that are becoming rectangles and thinner to the point where they're so thin that we can't even hear that click. It's just so thin that we can't hear it, and it doesn't. The next one begins before the last one has ended, and we just wind up with silence. So if you run into this where when you press a button, it's going in and out. In fact, let's do this square style as well. And you see as we move it less, it's not moving out of the range. But at higher amounts, it definitely does. Two ways to counteract this, of course, is don't use your VCO mod amount if you don't want that to happen. And another, honestly, better way, if you like the effect, let me get like a kind of Game Boy sound here. I'm going to make my LFO wave a triangle, so it's like swishing in between. And the pulse width, I'm going to move it to the middle. And so now we should have a little more leeway without this knob being turned for us. Without it being turned for us off the dial. And you'll be happy to know this is the only spot on the Mother 32 that I can think of at the moment where this occurs in not being able to hear something. Had I designed the Mother 32, I would have tuned it a little differently, but whatever. It's like a drone, it's like a buzzing, and like I said, it's almost like a kind of Game Boy noise. But already we got a little bit of funk, and that's what Moog is known for. But you can use the Mother 32 to do anything, as we'll find out as we move on. Moving on to the mix knob. The mix knob is, hey, Forrestine is watching. Hello, Forrestine. This is explanatory. This is explanuary. I'm explaining my favorite synthesizer. So, moving on. Next up is the mix knob. The mix knob has two sources. Inside of here, obviously, there's the thing that's making these notes we're hearing. And there's also a noise engine, which we can actually hear by using the mix knob and mixing in some noise into our signal. So let's do that. And as you can see, as you turn it, then there's more noise. That's what that does. We will be back to the mix knob, but that's really all you need to know. If you're going for a very analog character, sometimes mixing in a little bit of noise sounds great. Let me go back to my bass. Add some noise. See, it makes it like dirty, almost sinister. Fun. So, now to get into something that, oh man. Let's get into the filter. Next knob, cutoff. Cutoff refers to cutoff on the filter for the Mother 32. I'm going to go ahead and clean up our signal here, and let's use our familiar, I like this Game Boyish square wave. Oh, let's get that back at audio rates. Square waves are, for science reasons, one of the most fun things to filter. So are saw waves, though. Low passing a saw wave is a bit of a meme where I come from. So let's do that. Let's do our saw wave, actually, now that I think of it. A little cleaner, too. It's like, oh, what a nice synthesizer. So the cutoff is the filter. How much the filter is letting through. Think of a synthesizer filter as taking this raw wave of a wave, it's a saw wave, so it's going immediately up, then sloping down, then immediately up, then sloping down, so fast that it sounds like a note. And so, what a filter does is it says, in one of many, many circuit topological ways, I'm closing the gate, like I'm closing this castle gate, and you can't go higher than the gate that I'm closing on you. And what happens at the top of that gate depends on the kind of filter, and the Moog has a transistor, oh gosh, is it a transistor ladder filter? It is a ladder filter. I've just been reading a lot about ladder filters lately, so forgive me if I'm wrong there. But anyway, it has a ladder filter, it has a Moog filter, and again, I don't want to get too lost in the weeds. This is meant to be for musicians, so it sounds like this. Spacey. And this filter is also voltage controlled. We'll get there. A quick bit of terms for you, because there's things that we can change about the oscillator, such as its pitch. And other things about it, such as the character of it, through things like the pulse width. Let's turn that back on. I described this as as voltage before, and that's exactly what it is. It is the oscillator, the O in VCO wave. The O is oscillator is being voltage controlled, VCO. The filter is a VCF, a voltage controlled filter. So we can do stuff like this with the filter too. And we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm sure you're excited. So I've had a little bit of resonance on here. I heard someone once on Muff Wiggler say that, oh sorry, Mod Wiggler. I'm sorry. Someone on Mod Wiggler once said, I never use resonance. And that is really nice, bassy kind of sounds there. If you want deep bass, just take the resonance out, give it, what a filter does is it takes out the high frequencies. So if you want a bass, here's everything open. And then bring it down. already having fun over here. So, what does resonance sound like? Again, I don't want this to be too technical. I'm already launching into a couple technical rambles, but best thing to know about resonance is just kind of what it does. When it comes to this filter section, what I suggest people who are new to synthesis do is just play with it. So here it is with no resonance, with resonance. Why would you ever want it to sound like that? Well, because it's cool, that's why. I honestly think resonance sounds better when you're actively messing with the cutoff. It gives you those acidy, sort of alien tones that people love synthesizers for, that UFO kind of sound. Orstein says filters sparkle. Yeah, people love filters. This is where a lot of the cork sniffing takes place in modular. Is people saying, "Oh, but is the filter a negative 18 through 0 filter?" Listen to how it sounds first. Honestly, you don't need to get caught up in all that. Just be like, "What does it sound like?" Look up a demo. See, after not hearing that high resonance for a while, it kind of sounds great. It sounds a little Devo. So next up is the VCA mode. Gosh, am I really going to explain VCAs? Let me explain VCAs as they apply to the Mother 32. Pardon me, just a moment. So as you look at the VCA mode switch, please note that it has 2 words on it, and I didn't notice what the second word said for years. I know, it's embarrassing. At the top, it says on. Which means at the bottom it says off, right? But I realized, embarrassingly late, it doesn't say off. It says EG. What does that stand for? Well, if you're watching this and trying to figure that out, I'll try to put some timestamps in here. The envelope generator is what it stands for, and that's down here. Attack, sustain, decay. That is the envelope generator. And that says that the envelope generator is what's controlling the level of the VCA. In English, when I press a note, it makes noise, as opposed to just being on all the time. So on envelopes is what we call them. So next is the volume knob. Hold on to your socks. It's a volume knob. It controls how loud the synthesizer is. The most interesting thing that I can say about this is if you unmount your Mother 32. Oh. Yeah, that's a really good idea. That's a really good point. That's a really good point, Forrestine. Thank you for bringing that up. I actually do have something interesting to say about the volume knob. You can think about a VCA as a volume knob, as I've actually said elsewhere. Sort of like when you go like this. One of the things of voltage control, and why you want voltage control in a module, is because there's things that my hand can't do. For example, my hand can't immediately move something from the softest it's going to be to the loudest it's going to be, like this very sudden, that beep. Let me make it a beep. Like, I can't do that by hand. I can try. But there's things that your hands can't do, be it how fast, how frequent, or just you've run out of hands. That's a lot of modular, is how do I turn this knob? And when it says VCA, which stands for Voltage Controlled Amplifier, so if you've been following along so far, voltage control means the knob can get effectively moved by voltage. An amplifier, I think we all know what an amplifier is. It takes it from being silent to being something we can hear. And these two do work together. But this says, I want to move the, when you have it on EG, it says, I want to move my volume knob by voltage. I want to move it by voltage. I'm just making sure I didn't mess up with my levels. Alright. Yeah, best way to think about it for now on the Mother 32 is that it's like moving the volume knob. Instead of having it always on and needing to move the volume knob yourself, this lets you program how the volume knob turns itself. Making good time. Moving on to row 2, we have glide. Glide can be shown off very easily. Turn it all the way up. It's how long it takes it to glide from one note to the next. By playing creatively, you can get some cool swishy things between the notes here, because with it off, you get that arpeggio-y sudden jump. But if you turn up the glide, there it is. That's all there is to know about glide. It changes how it puts that little slide between your notes like a fretless guitar. I'm going to keep it down though for the rest of the experiment. Feel free to mess with it on your own time. Okay, here we go. So VCO mod source. We know what a voltage controlled oscillator is now. So the mod source is what determines how the knob is turned, I guess is a good way to put it. Right now it's been on LFO, as you can see. And the LFO, as I've previously said, is right here. It's represented here visually. Let's go back to that pulse width that we were messing around with, because we know what that sounds like. And so when I press a note, you'll notice that the character of it is changing with the light. And we can get into really cool territory by bringing this LFO into audio rates. Remember how that square sounded? It was just kind of like low and gross and ouch in a way. I don't know, it makes me nauseous. But when we bring the LFO, which is modulating this knob up to audio rates, we can change the amount it's affecting it. The frequency. Really, really cool sounds coming from this. And this is why I explain voltage control as being able to do what you can't do with your hands. So, obviously, I can't, maybe you can, but I can't turn a knob by audio rate, no matter how hard I try. Like, I can try, but that's not going to happen, and it's certainly not going to be able to go from the very top of the knob to the bottom of the knob so fast that we can't even see the LFO like blinking. I'm bringing this up so fast we can't even see it blinking. And as you can see, it even responds to different frequencies differently. If only we could fix that.
We can.
But we'll get to it. Anyway, so what the VCO mod source does is it says instead of this LFO, bring it back down. What I want to move my pulse width knob with is that envelope we were talking about. So it's going to go up, and I'm going to make it real quick. Again, we'll get to the envelopes later. I'm going to make it so that the knob's going to move like this. I'll give a visual representation of it. When I press a note, it's going to move like this. Let me turn this down actually for a second. Here we go. So with the envelope on, you can kind of hear, it's not just beeping, it's not ending immediately. Little space here, because the way that this is moving the volume knob is like this. It goes like bang, bang. That's kind of how it's moving the volume knob. There it is. So, I wanted to move the pulse width knob in the same way, like this. Oops, sorry. Like that. Just give it like a nudge upward and then slide slowly back down. Just like I'm doing with the volume knob. There is a way to duplicate that, and it's this switch. So instead of the LFO, instead of that LFO going up and down so fast, let's move it so that it slides along with the volume knob. Here it says EG/VCO mod. That sounds great, doesn't it? What it's doing is, as it moves the volume knob, those squares are getting fatter, or those rectangles, technically. Those thin rectangles that are happening so fast they sound like a note become fatter at the top of the note's volume, and then peter away into smaller rectangles as the note falls again. And it sounds really nice and rich and lush. This is why Nick Batt talks about pulse width modulation, which is what we're doing right now, so much. He loves how this sounds, and power to him, honestly. In fact, let's do... gosh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm like, I want to do some cool filter stuff with this, but we're getting there. We're almost there. So, next up is the VCO mod destination. So we have a VCO mod source, which right now is that slide that we were showing before. The thing that goes a bit like this. So, what if we don't want to send it to the pulse width knob? Is there anything else? Yes. We can send it to the frequency knob. Remember the frequency knob? We can send it to the frequency knob instead with this switch. Let's do that and see what it sounds like. Turn up the mod amount. Sorry. And this is how you can get some stuff going on, like very Hoovery sounds. If you're familiar with that sound, it's in a lot of old rave music. The Bloody Beetroots use it a lot. And I find with frequency modulation, if you make it very subtle, then you get a very intense kind of rave-like sound. Let me dial in a rave-like organ right now with just the stuff that we already kind of know. Down. Yeah, baby. Once again, resonance sounds so good when you're moving the cutoff knob. I cannot wait to move the cutoff knob with VCF, but I'm teaching this instrument, so let's just move on. So I'm going to take it off of frequency because it sounds really funny. Ow! Sounds like my cat. So next is the VCF mode. This also confused me a lot when I first got the synthesizer in my hands. It's an easy way to make it completely silent. So right now, this whole time, as I described it before, higher frequencies are being filtered out in a certain way according to the ladder filter inside of the Moog. And you can hear that high end coming in and going away. So high pass is kind of like flipping this on its head. Instead of it adding more of the high frequencies, as we go up, and it's I'd say this is like sculpting. It's keeping all of the low frequency content no matter what I do, except when I get it so low that it takes up the low frequency content too. There it goes. What if we turned that around and said we want to keep all high frequency content and start sculpting out the low, which sometimes you want to do for mix reasons, sometimes you want to do for sound reasons. So let's see what that sounds like. This should be full pass unless this does a thing. Yeah, this is it. Okay, so this is full pass on the Mother 32. Some filters treat this differently, but this is about the Mother 32. So this is full pass, and let's start sculpting out instead instead of going from nothing, let's start sculpting out the low frequencies until we just have high frequencies. Like an Atari kind of noise there. It's even more pronounced with the saw waves. Very nice. That's what that knob does. I prefer the low pass filter. It's kind of what made the Moog famous. It's very funky. Oh, turned off. There you go. So I'm going to keep it on low pass for now. But if you want that higher, tinnier, like Atari sound, and not the Game Boy kind of SID chip sound from your waves, that's how you do it. So, mod sources. This is a VCF mode, which you recall, or that was the VCF mode, which was the voltage-controlled filter. This is the voltage-controlled filter mod source, and it's not. This is where it starts getting a little harder to figure out what controls what, and this is why I'm making this video, so I can demystify some of this for you. This and this may remind you of this and this, and you would be right. VCF mod source, VCF mod amount, and you'll notice there's no VCF mod destination, which is unfortunate. But we can do it like this. So right now it's on the LFO. So let's add some VCF mod amount, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my LFO back down to a normal rate so we can see it. And I'm going to turn it let me turn it halfway up. So that way I'm going to move my cutoff down here, and when I press a button, because the source is the LFO, the amount is about halfway, when I press a button, the cutoff knob should do something, turning it off real quick, like this. So let's let the machine do that for us. There we go. And this functions as a shift upwards, like where we start in the motion. Or downward. Cool, right? through understanding the stuff of the VCO mod amount, I feel like the VCF mod amount almost explains itself as well as the mod source. You can see that there's an EG on the top of the VCF mod source. Much like over here, where the EG gave us that kitty cat noise. I'm just going to bring it back. Like you can hear it being high and then going low, like a cat going meow. Yeah, okay, SE, I'll feed you later. So, what you want to do with this then is make it so that this knob, again, it all goes to this knob. It doesn't have a different destination. It's all going to go to cutoff. So let's bring cutoff way down. So right now, my filter is filtering out most of the interesting tonal content. So let's see, resonance at minimum. Let's bring up the VCF mod amount so that it'll go about halfway up. And what it should do is basically this. Like that. But again, I can't move it as well as the machine can. So let's let the machine do it for us. Bring it up to about a little over halfway. Oh, and now we have a justice organ, don't we? Very cool, right? These are all sounds that we're so familiar with as music listeners that when you get it, sometimes you'll go, that's from the KLF, and yeah, probably. Like they've all been working with these same fundamentals for like all this time. Synthesis has changed a lot, but it's mostly in the DAW side of things. When you're working with hardware synthesizers, you're going to run into a lot of classic sounds that you love. So if you love classic EDM, it's one of the this is a hobby you generally pick up by accident, as I did. Pardon me. So, right now we have this cool justice organ. Maybe I want to move it a little less. Little demure. Or make it a little more harsh, just all the way. Let me turn the cutoff way down. Sounds like this normally. Yeah, can't even hear it. All the way up. But what if we wanted to move it in the other direction? Which I'm sure is something that you may have asked yourself. This seems to be moving things up. Can we move things down? Yes. In fact, I can make it so that when we press it, it will dip down, like punch into that high frequency content and then bring it back up as we let it go. Because right now, here, I'm going to go ahead and change the envelope we're using again. See how we have that, like it comes up very gradually? In fact, the filter is so powerful at filtering out content, I think we can turn the VCO mode on. Yeah, and it's just sounding all the time now, but if I bring the filter down enough, we can't hear anything because everything's filtered out. If you have wound up in this configuration on your Mother 32 by accident, perhaps, by just flipping switches and turning knobs by accident, or maybe just turning down all your knobs to try to find some kind of baseline, you may have wound up here and then wondered why the function of all your knobs have changed. That's what I did. What's happening is it is screaming. It is screaming behind the surface, but everything's being filtered out. So when you press a button down here, it sounds like you're playing a normal note because it's opening the filter. We won't be able to hear it if I turn this down. See? So let's do what I was just talking about. Instead of starting at the top, instead of starting at the bottom and then moving up and then moving slowly back down, let's start at the top and then cut out stuff when I press a button. Weird, right? Anti-buttons. Change this a little bit. EG do the talking here. Bow wow, bow wow. Very, very kind of funky sort of thing. In fact, with a little higher attack, I bet you we can get a funkadelic kind of. Higher? Little resonance? Nah. Very funky kind of thing. In fact, if I bring the decay down a little bit, we could probably get like a little, whoop. Attack. Love that sound. And bring up the resonance. I've mentioned before, moving the cutoff sounds even better when you turn up the resonance, and here's what I mean. Turn it way up. I mean, come on. That's so cool. Anyway, that's why it sounds like it does. It's because we're moving the knob down instead of moving the knob up. If I were to switch the polarity back to positive, then we would try to move it up and quickly realize that there's nowhere for the cutoff to go. Doesn't really do much. We need to bring the cutoff down before positive polarity can do anything. Oh, that sounds really funky. So, third, how are we doing on time? That's fine, I've gone over before. Nobody's performing after me. Oh, we also have some chat, so between the second and third row, let's check the chats. Forsey says, I love making myself laugh with my synthesizer. Oh gosh, same. So just every once in a while I'll plug something in and the stupidest noise I have ever heard will come out of it. And I will just randomly crack up laughing. And my boyfriend will be like, oh, what are you laughing about? And I'll be like, you need to hear this. It's like, what are you doing? There's also is it Andertons? I don't think it's Andertons. There's another video where there's just a knee-slappingly hilarious preset on the Dave Smith Rev 2. Gosh. I'll share it in the EMS Discord server because every single time like that shows up in my recommendations, I click it again and I just skip to the timestamp so I can hear just the dumbest sounding patch I've ever heard in my life. It's so good. This stream has been great and very informative. Thank you, Sir Jumpy. Oh, Sir Humpy? Sir Lumpy. Sir Lumpy. I thought it said Sir Jumpy. Ooh. Someone said, my favorite is when synths sound like they're suffering, like they're about to explode. On the edge, high rate and high rate frequency modulation will get the character there. That's absolutely right, and the Mother 32 does have rudimentary frequency modulation things in. Frequency modulation, as you might imagine, has to do with the frequency knob. This one, again, it seems so simple at the beginning, right? So, speaking of funny synthesizer sounds. So, the frequency modulation refers to modulating that knob, and really anything that modulates that knob, but it's mostly referring to doing it at a, and this is a little bit of a tangent, specifically for swizzle circuits. When you modulate it at an audio rate, like I said, my hand can't move that fast. Like, that's what I got for you. But if we use the LFO, let's bring the LFO up to an audio rate, which is currently not controlling anything, so let's make it control the frequency. And then bring up the amount it controls the frequency. Get a little more of the harmonic content in here. And in fact, let me set this really quick to a bit more of a enjoyable synth voice for the bottom row. And now let's make the Mother 32 sound like it's about to explode. There we go. A little bit of experimental synth noises for you, and that's what all my music is getting into these weird kind of sounds that you can get out of it. Very alien, almost non-musical things. So let's go. Oh yeah, there's a synth about to explode noise. Almost sounds like Master Boot record. Now I gotta fix it. Ah, there we go. There's the frequency. Let's have the LFO control the frequency knob as well. Ah, there we go. Sounds like a motor. And the Modular 32 can be used for sound design. I mean, sounds like a motor. I bet you this would sound more like a motor if it wasn't moving if it wasn't moving the filter so high, and maybe the filter started a little lower. Let's get like a tractor. We've been referring back to the LFO knob so much that let's just call that the chapter on the LFO knob of just the things that you can do when you know what you're doing and you start routing things in very creative ways. So let me bring this back to a normal synthesizer sound real fast. Okay. All right. We're back to a normal synthesizer sound. The LFO isn't really doing anything, but let's go ahead and have it do slow modulation of our pulse width. Why not? It's good to keep things harmonically rich. So, tempo and gate length mostly has to do with the sequencer. There's a couple things in this walkthrough that I'm just going to say read the manual on, because the manual is going to explain it better than I can. And that's it. For the MIDI and the sequencer, I mean tempo. It's the clock speed. What do you want? Start that. Teardrop has a knife. If you ever could. No, nobody got that reference. I'm so sorry. But anyway, that's what the tempo does. In fact, let me go ahead and pick a nice little sequence on here, so that because I'm about to be talking about the envelope generator, and sequencer wouldn't hurt there now that I think about it. Okay, we got like an odd time signature on this, but that's fine. Yeah, this is from when I wrote something in 23 time. So, there's a little stutter in this one where it hits a note, I think 3 times in the space of a single note. Yeah, it's like 1 to 3. Yeah, neat little triplet there. That's fine. It kind of gives a good example of what it sounds like at a higher speed. Wet motor, M32 is so fun. Just looking at chat here. Yes, absolutely. So let's explore this EG that's kind of been hanging over our heads. We have the LFO wave, which I've kind of already explained. It just so happens that the Mother 32 is tuned that if you route the LFO to the frequency, you can kind of get this going on, where the top of the LFO moves it up an octave, and that has everything to do with this knob here. Let me throw it off tune. You see those little marks on the knob? They actually mean something. It always impresses me, like, how exact they got it. I've played with digital stuff, where those little marks on the knob mean literally nothing. But if I want to move down just a full octave for the higher part of this, I can just follow the little marks around the knob. And now we're operating at half. I believe that's a fifth. I think so. Actually, this might be a full octave now that I'm looking at it. So, let's move on. Attack, sustain, decay. And let me talk about attack, sustain, decay for a little bit. Attack, sustain, and decay, it's a 3-stage envelope, which means that the message that we're sending to the volume knob has 3 parts. One is the attack. This is no attack. Think of attack as glide for the volume knob. Think of all envelopes as glide for the volume knob, really, but attack is the glide upward. Yeah. Again, when you're moving the cutoff knob slowly, that's when the resonance really shines. Kind of a frog bass there. Where your head at. Anyway, sorry. The attack determines how fast it goes up, but not how fast it goes down, because you'll notice when I let go of the note, it's just gone. So there's 3 parts to this, and I'm just going to skip straight to the third for a moment, because the second part is really simple. So the third part of a 3-stage envelope is decay. Pardon me. I'm getting warm. I'm going to take my sweater off. Exactly a year ago, I was performing outside in sub-freezing temperatures, and I was actually able to keep myself warm from the analog warmth coming off of my synthesizer. It was crazy. Anyway, decay is the other direction. Attack is up, so let's get a very slow trip up the volume knob. And again, it's affecting more than the volume knob right now. It's actually affecting the frequency knob for the filter. I should call the cutoff knob, really. It's affecting the cutoff knob for the filter as well. And see how it doesn't immediately disappear. It kind of slips away. So let's make this a very spacey kind of sound. Something that takes a while to go away. And that's a lot of knobs being moved at once. That's the cutoff knob, that's the volume knob, that's the pulse width knob, now that I'm listening for it. And we can more easily audibly follow that if I just switch it to frequency real quick, and you'll hear the note go up and down the amount that it's affecting the knobs. So let's hear that real quick. Oh, sorry, my bad. It was on the LFO. Try that again. There we go. So if you imagine all of the knobs moving in the direction of that note where it goes low, high, low. Whoa. a very tiny ghost. So, that's what attack and decay do. Attack is how slowly it goes up. Decay is how slowly it goes down. For our normal synthesizer noise, you're probably going to want a little bit of decay. Then it's identifiable as a synthesizer. Obviously, you put a larger tail on it, you get some more dramatic notes. And for space music, just crank it up, have it affect everything, and then just go like... And you'll notice that it resets when I press a button. Not everything's going to do that. Sometimes an envelope generator will just kind of pick up from where you left off, but it resets every time. So... As Forcing said in chat, they've said before, now it's doing a bunch of stuff, which is all you can ask for. And that's true. Setting up a nice, complex patch, once you know what everything does, feels so satisfying. Finally, we have the VC mix. Maybe you skipped right to this part of the video. Maybe you wanted to know what the VC mix does. And I'm leaving my finger here so that people come here to learn what the VC mix does. Okay. Because, like, you just got your Mother 32, you got it in front of you. Day one, you've never had a modular synthesizer before. What does this knob do? Can you tell me? Trick question. It does absolutely nothing. Doesn't do a thing. It does do something, but we're not using what it controls. So there is a knob that, unless you're using the patch bay, it doesn't affect anything. Stop touching it if you're not using the patch bay. From someone who was a new person using a Mother 32, let me put it out of your mind. This knob is not broken, but unless you're using it in the patch bay, it does nothing. So, I can turn it all I want, won't do a thing. So, this is generally when I end the stream, but I hope this goes fast. Let's go to the patch bay. So, what the patch bay lets you do is, I've said a lot of things here that like, oh, this lets the voltage move this knob. This source voltage moves to this destination knob. And what the patch bay is there to do is to let you pick sources and destinations and then patch those together. So the sources on the Mother 32, or the outs as we'll generally call them in the biz, have a little white background on them. You can see them here. In fact, let me move my camera a little bit so we can get a better view on the patch bay. Get over here. Oh no, they can see my boing. There's the patch bay. So the patch bay allows you to grab sources and then send them elsewhere. Brace for this. Right now, so some people probably wondered, if I took this out of here and put it in a Eurorack synthesizer, how How would I hear it? Because the audio out is on the back, right? The answer is this. The VC. Remember how I called the VCA the volume knob? Forrestine was actually very right in pointing that out because the volume knob affects the VCA. We've been listening to the VCA out this whole time, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. So, volume affects it here. Time for a quick talk about classical synthesis paths. We're going to talk about this source first, and the destinations don't have that little background. But this source first, the VCA source. It's at the end of the classical synthesis path, as it's called inside of the Mother 32, which is oscillator, the thing that goes up and down. There's a more or less a bare oscillator for you. And then we have the filter. And again, there's envelopes moving things around in there, but the path is oscillator to filter to VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. And it's on right now, so it doesn't need a filter to open up the amplifier, the VCA at the top right. So make that nice short note. Speaking of Devo sounds, oh jeez, it almost actually sounds a little bit more like Dare to Be Stupid. So, moving along then from the VCA, it's just at the end of the whole chain. It is effectively the out, but it's the out because the VCA is the last step in hearing things. So, let's go through some of these and just point out for the lost what they control. Grab a patch cable here. I shouldn't need more than one for most of these. Because it's very visible, let's route the bare triangle LFO, which is a source on here where it says LFO tri. We're going to route this signal that you see it pulsating to various things on the module. So first is external audio, EXT audio. That was a bad idea. This doesn't do anything. We can do so. I'm going to do the top row in reverse. Let's go to the VCA CV. It's moving the volume knob. Except it's not actually moving the volume knob. The volume knob is actually kind of a volume knob after the VCA itself, but that's kind of what it's doing. So that's VCA CV. Next is Mix CV. You remember Mix. So if we move it there, go ahead, make a mental note or a mental guess as to what this is going to sound like. Why is that signal so weak? Oh, my volume's low. There we go. Here we go. One of those synthesizer explode noises. It's bringing in that noise. But as fast and as consistent as the LFO can be. Next is external audio. This confuses a lot of people. So I'm just going to do something real quick, and then I'll explain what I did. So this is not the Mother 32 that we're listening to right now. Can this read? No, my darn trusty patch cable can't reach. Arg. That's fine. Back in there. So this isn't the Mother 32. It's another oscillator with ring mod that I have off screen. It's the Lonnie Ikea. Or maybe I can like. It's over there. It's over there. So, we're bringing it into the Mother 32 at the oscillator level. And this is why I took the time to explain the classical synthesis path, because this too is being run through the cutoff. Resonance. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So anyway, what happened to the noise? Notice where it says noise/ext. The external audio that I'm taking from this other oscillator is being mixed into the Mother 32 at the oscillator level. So let's tune them. Nice. So when you start bringing that in, you get some massive sound. It's kind of great, actually. In fact, now that I think about it, if you just have a Mother 32, there's a very cool patch you can do with this. Whoop. Turn off that VCA. Come on now. So let's do this. You'll notice that there's a source down here for, I think it's called VCO. There we go. We have VCO saw and VCO pulse, and it's actually referring to the pulse, another word for square wave, and the saw VCO. So for people who have a Mother 32 and are like, wait, I like how both of these things sound. Can I hear them at the same time? The answer is yes. Take the source of the LFO the VCO saw. Take the source of the VCO saw with the machine set to pulse mode. So it sounds like. Bring it up. There we go. So let's mix in some of the saw. And by the way, everything you're doing with the pulse width of your pulse, your square wave, still works here. So you can get just a little bit of the saw in there and have it really noticeable. Get down the LFO. Or just have it like kind of riding underneath the saw. It sounds like a doom metal bass. Like, oh gosh, who's that? Sub Rosa. Sounds like Beneath the Crown by Sub Rosa almost. Someone once told me that they tune into my stream, like, they know all about synthesizers, they just like hearing about genres and bands they haven't heard of before. If you like doom metal, go check out Sub Rosa, female-led doom metal project. They're great. They're great. I love them. Anyway, moving on. Here we have a source for noise. So this is a neat connection because it's a connection that it's already doing. Check this out. So let's get back our original external audio of the noise. Oh gosh. It's weird. Did this get louder? There we go. So pitch isn't affecting anything. It's pure white noise. It is going through the filter, but it's just noise. So if we patch the noise source into the external audio source, nothing happens. This connection is already being made under the panel, and this is a good time to learn about normals. If you had to patch up everything yourself, kind of like on a normal modular synthesizer, then nothing would be normaled, more or less. Nothing would be normaled. It would be very hard to make sound on this. You'd need to know absolutely everything that you're doing, and take up some of these patch points that you could otherwise use for other and more interesting things. So there's normals underneath the panel, which make all of these connections for you, so it's a little more of a playable instrument. And when you break a normal, like we did with our external audio, making it a bit of a powerhouse, then oh, hold on, let me bring that in a little bit. When you make it that powerhouse, I'm breaking the normal to the noise that's already there. Plugging in my other oscillator. So that's how you break a normal. If you've ever heard that on Mod Wiggler, then do that. Break your normals. So let's experiment with noise, because some of these are on this row are concepts we've already these are concepts we've already covered. VCF cutoff. We know what that is. Oh. Let's send that white noise directly to the VCF cutoff. Very analog character. Turn up the resonance, because whenever you're moving the cutoff, it's great to turn up the resonance. There's some of that, it's gonna blow noises, where it's just like it sounds like something's broken. Lots of table synthesizers, like desktop synthesizers, have something on it that's like, it's something like broken transmission, and it's just noise into cutoff with high resonance. Let's send the noise to the resonance, why not? Resonance is going to be your go-to for wow. It's the best way that I can describe resonance. Resonance makes it squeakier, but that's not a bad thing, especially with low noises that have a lot of room to get squeaky. And much like those other, you might be wondering why the knobs still work. Much like those other connections we were making beneath the panel by just using the switches and knobs, the knobs still bias how far the knob is going to move. I actually don't know the precise amounts by voltage, but it shouldn't apply to you, a musician. You. So don't worry about it, and when you get something like this, like I'm going to write noise to resonance, then start moving resonance around and find the sweet spot. Ooh, we have like a Super Nintendo wind noise here. Underneath, here, let me just bring in, there we go. And this is just noise informing itself at this point. nor'easter here. There we go. Gusts of wind. So nice. Next up is another source. This is interesting. So next up is another source called VCF. I mentioned before the signals go VCO, the oscillator VCF, the voltage controlled filter, and the VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. So VCF lets you tap into pre-amplifier filter. I actually don't know, I can't think of offhand anything really cool to do with this source. But let's listen to it real quick, because this is something audible that we can hear. I mean, we can listen to the noise too while we're at it for a second. It's going to be really loud. Turn down your volume. 2, 3, 2, 1. And here. And here. Shout out to Moff and Zeef. The VCF sounds like this. We have no VCA to govern us. We can still move the filter knob by pressing notes and causing those envelopes to come through and move it for us. I imagine if you're making drone music and have the envelopes doing something very interesting, this is very useful to you. We're going to go back to normal synthesizerville, and feel free to turn your volume back up. Passing fire engine. Thank you very much. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. We have an in for VCO 1 volt per octave. Oh boy. Okay, so VCO is the voltage controlled oscillator. Before we move on this, let's check the chat. I don't want to talk about volt per octave yet. No, it's chat's all reactions. Thank you all for watching, but all right. Oh man, how do you explain 1 volt per octave to a new person? So, tell you what, 1 volt per octave refers to a ratio, a very precise ratio, at which something will be affected. FM, which is another in fact, it's right next to it, just says linear FM. It's not exponential. It's just whatever you send in is whatever you get out, is going to affect the VCO. And this says at a very specific ratio, it's going to affect the VCO. So if I were to plug some noise into volt per octave, it probably sounds different than if it was linear. Volt per octave is more, it has less, it clamps down on it less, I guess is a good way to put it. I'd say less attenuation, but that's a bit of a advanced way to put it. It clamps down on the signal less because what it's expecting is something from a sequencer. This is a good place to plug things in if you have an external sequencer. And it has something that goes out. You can plug it into 1 volt per octave because most sequencers in modular run on a 1 volt per octave paradigm. So this is a way that you can either, in fact, here, let me start up the subharmonicon just off camera here. And can I reach, see here? Yeah, I can. So we're going to be slowly moving the bass note of the Mother 32. Let me make this a little more listenable too. Plugged into the wrong thing. Sorry about that. So note of our sequence is being moved around by an external sequencer. And it's not synced up or anything like that. This is fine for illustration purposes. Now, if we plug it into the linear FM, it's still quantized coming out of the machine, but it operates differently. This is a bit of an advanced thing, but let's put it this way. If you're going to take something that's going to be, because we mentioned FM before, let me shut this up real fast. We mentioned FM before, that it's like the volt per octave musical intervals that you get from plugging in there, but FM tends to be something that you can mess with how loud the volume of the signal is coming in, or how much it affects the signal, and it'll just operate entirely different. Audio rate signals are good. So if this would be another way to accomplish routing the LFO to the frequency, as we did before, would be to take the linear FM. In fact, let's let noise decide the pitch of the note. Very lo-fi kind of sound, right? And it's linear FM, so it's not affecting it as much as if I plugged it into the very high ceiling of a volt per octave. Yeah, like that's unrecognizable. We might as well just be listening to the noise channel. Linear is a little less severe. 1 volt per octave. Forrestine says something very funny, which will sum up these two jacks. 1 volt per octave, because somebody had to pick something. All right, let's see if we can beast through it. We've already examined these, VCO saw and VCO pulse. Go to our external audio. So we're listening to noise, but let's replace the noise with the VCO triangle. Whoops. Oh, that's weird. Oh, do I have a low frequency? That's strange. Oh, wait, I'm plugging it into... Oh, it's the LFO. It's the LFO, chat. It's right below it. We have the VCOs and the LFOs. The VCO sounds like this. I got confused. Here's our pulse. Here's our saw. Back to the pulse. And it won't change anything because we're currently on pulse, but we can... Very subtle. Moving on. You gotta be kidding me! VCO mod... I don't know what VCO mod does, chat. No, VCO mod is another way that you can modulate the VCO's pitch. Just here, let's see what it sounds like. At least I think so. Oh no! Hold on, I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong. I'm completely wrong. The VCO mod is this right here. The amount of stuff that we're sending to the VCO. So if you want to move this knob, send voltage to VCO mod. Thank goodness. Oh gosh, I thought there was a third one in here that I just never noticed or used. And I'm like, no! Don't make me explain a third way to move a VCO's pitch. LFO rate. There's a cool thing you can do with LFO rate. So let me go ahead. So LFO rate, we're sending noise to it right now, which should arguably make the VCO, the LFO behave unusually. So let's hear it. Sorry, what was that? My boyfriend says, I also behave unusually when people send noise at me. Another interesting thing to send into the LFO rate is the envelope generator, because as that envelope goes up, so should the LFO rate. So if we bias it low, you get almost like some dubstep wubs there. Let me bring this down to the bass. Get some wubs that way, because again, this is being pushed upwards by the envelope that's, you know, opening the filter and opening the VCA, and it's also moving this. There we go. So I had the LFO tied, as I would. I have the LFO tied to the filter. Very nice. Okay, LFO try, LFO square. I feel like you may already know what those are. LFO try and LFO square are just, you know, it's this. It's whatever this is. Now, it's cool because this does allow you to access the LFO triangle. Go ahead and there we go. Oh gosh, there we go. So this lets us access the LFO triangle when the LFO square is in use. Let's route it to linear VCO. Frequency modulation. So now I'm sending the square. Oh, very nice, very nice. Good noises on stream. Okay. Looking at what we got left. I'm going to skip this row. I'm going to get to this row. Molt. Molt is fun. Molt is like, wait. What if I want to send my triangle to more than 2 spots? We can do that. I'm going to need some more cables here. We can do that because once you plug into Molt, we have a Molt 1 and a Molt 2. Blue and green. So let's send one to the VCA so that we can open up. And let's send one that as it goes up, let's send it to the, do I currently have it going to the cutoff? I do. Let me send it to the mix so it'll get noisier. There we go. And that's how you send something to 2 destinations. It multiplies the signal in a faithful, buffered way. Yeah, following that, there it goes. All right. I did mention there was about 2 things. I'm just going to say read the manual. Assign is one of them. Mostly what it's good for in my experience and how I've used the assign output. Assign is, it doesn't refer to any one function. It actually can be assigned by pressing a cryptic button sequence that you press. And you change what it does. It can either do every time the sequencer resets, it can do a clock signal. That's what I have it set at almost all of the time. I'm not going to go over that on stream. Read the manual. It does a better job of explaining it. Just know that assign could be one of a lot of things, and there's a way to set what it is. So here we have, and I always wondered why this one had a little white circle around it. There's no reason for it that I can tell, but it says gate. Oh, okay. Forrestine says if you have a grandmother, apparently that LFO rate thing where you get those dubstep levels like a wub, 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 wub. Really good on the grandmother too, and I'd believe it because a lot of Mother 32, a lot of the internals are kind of similar. Anyway, gate refers to the VCA gate, kind of. So let's not think about it that way. What this is expecting. Hold on. I just solved what the little white circle means. These little white circles are all of the inputs that are looking for a gate signal. Or to be more precise, they're looking for just a ping, just a fast little singular square wave like a clock signal. Let me think. I don't know if I actually can't think of any way to demonstrate this using mostly the Mother 32. Except for the fact that it allows you to take your current step in the sequencer or wherever you've set your pitch and use something else's clock to trigger it. So I'm going to plug an off-screen clock signal into the gate. And now it's playing itself. This is important to know for generative ambient. If you have a module which can generate algorithmically derived gate signals, send it in here and it'll start playing it automatically. There we go. I turned down the clock a little bit up there. And this does not advance the sequencer. However, it's good for adding. It's good for adding some extra notes to a sequence because it's triggering the gate where it wouldn't otherwise be triggered. Ooh, I actually like that a lot. Hold on, let me sync these clocks real quick. Because up there's a subharmonicon and it's dividing the clock for me. So let's get some clock divisions here and get something nice to listen to. We have a clock out, I think. Yes, on the aside. But I can't. Okay, so it doesn't go into multiples. Unfortunate. That's okay. Let me go ahead and desync them again. Oh, nope, I wanted to keep that one. There we go. But going from synced to unsynced, you can hear those other gates coming in, pouring in like a waterfall. So we also have an EG out. At this point, I want to wrap this up, so I'm just going to plow through. You know what the EG is. The EG is how fast it goes up, how slow it goes down, and I forgot to mention the sustain. I'm going to show you what sustain means in 2 seconds. Got it? Sustain determines if holding down the note causes the note to continue. Done. Moving on. I like keeping it on because I want to play. I want to play this funkadelic. Like, if I'm holding down the note, play the note already. But once again, this might come in. This might be more relevant for you if you're doing generative ambient sort of stuff, and you're like, oh, I don't want it to be on for as long as the gate is on. I just want it to trigger once. Flip your sustain off, and you'll get it. So KB. So here's the problem with illustrating KB on the Mother 32. KB is referring to a volt per octave. Remember that? A volt per octave signal, which is coming out of the keyboard. And something cool to send this to if you're looking for patch ideas is send it to the VCO rate. because when you press a lower key, not only will the pitch go up and down, like, but we can move the LFO rate along the same lines affected by which note we're playing. LFO rate, where was that? So that would make lower notes be a little more wow wow, and a little bit of the higher notes like webbida webbida weh. I believe in the instruction manual for the Mother 32, there's a patch that uses this to determine how much noise is coming through. And here, we can show that off a little bit here. Up at the high notes. Lower. Higher. And that patch is, I believe, it's the percussion section. It uses the nature of percussion in techno being your hi-hat. Your hi-hat. Bring it up. So you can use the sequencer to program high notes for a hi-hat. And lower notes for a bass drum, and because that won't have so much noise in it, then you make it a little bit of a drum sequencer. And that's actually the DNA for a DFAM, which I have up here. So if you have a DFAM, that's where they kind of change the hardwiring of a Mother 32's internals to operate more or less like that. Gate. Much like gate in was a very short signal, let's go ahead and route gate to the VCA, so we can hear what a gate signal sounds like. This is gonna open up a little burst of noise, and imagine the volume knob moving like this. Oop. My sustain is on, but it doesn't matter if you've patched in gate. And yet, it is still changing the timbre. This is because cutoff. Think. Maybe. Man, I don't know. You know what? If you're still watching at this point, like, hey, thanks. But no, gate is just like, is a button being pressed down. So much of this demo, if you really think about it, has hinged upon, is there a button being pressed down? And it controls when things fire off. So, gate is high when there's a button being pressed down. Moving on. Tempo. This is fun. So check this out. Tempo is where you run the clock signal, but I'm going to run my gate signal there. Ooh. Oh wow, did I silence myself? Goodness knows what I'm doing to myself here. Hold on. Alright, I thought that would like make it a bit of a stepped sequence. Oh well. I appear to have confused the Mother 32. That's fine. Instead of that, let me go ahead and route our LFO square. There we go. So now the tempo is instead of being tied to the tempo knob, it's being determined by the LFO knob. What that does is it lets us time modulation to the song, like this. Okay, run stop. This, and I mentioned before, you send gate signals, those like quick, snappy signals, here to activate an event. This will reset the sequencer. This one will cause the sequencer to hold where it is until it goes away. Also, very good. Do not ignore this if you're making generative ambient. Great to have it hold there for a minute. And run/stop, of course, starts and stops the sequencer. We're done. Let's get to the hard row. One quick break here before I get to it. All right. Here we go. What does this knob do? Well, let's pick something first that's very audible. No, it doesn't order pizza. Sorry, my boyfriend said pizza. No, it does not control the position of my garage door. It does not control that. Every VC mix knob on a Mother 32 is tied to the garage door of one of the employees at Moog headquarters. The VC mix knob. Where do we start? Okay, I'm gonna hook something up. The VC mix out on the patch bay, I'm going to send it to something very noticeable, which is VCO linear FM. Let's see, VC mix 2, I'm going to send the triangle LFO, which we're currently looking at right here. So let's hear it. I think we're just hearing the... There we go, yeah. I was going to say, we shouldn't have heard anything there. It was affecting the filter. Okay, so now let's turn up the VC mix knob. Oh my gosh, the VC mix knob is now definitely doing something. VC mix stands for voltage control mixer. It's a mixer that's set up in a way to sling voltage control around. Mix 1, right here, is the left side of the knob. Mix 2 is the right side of the knob. So as I move this up, it's going to prefer the other signal, and I could effectively make it work backwards, I think, if I do this. Yep. And it also means that I can plug two completely different sources in here and find some happy medium of the two. Let's send some noise here to our pitch and get a probably pretty hellish noise out of it. Oh, hold on, I plugged it into linear. I want a hellish noise. Let's go to the 1 volt per octave. So good. Turn it way up. It's gonna blow. There are fun and good things to be had here. Like, for example, routing your saw into here, as well as routing maybe an LFO into here. And let's send this into... Let's send our VC mix into the filter. There we go. You know, it's such a shame that it sounds so different on every note, isn't it? Sounds like that. Sounds like that. It's a little more untuned. What if we made it consistent? How do you do it? I'm going to plug into KB, the voltage, the volt per octave. And route it to the LFO rate. There we go. And now that LFO distortion that's just whipping around the cutoff knob at audio rates, FMing the the cutoff knob, it's way more consistent. So there's a fun little patch for you to try at home. But that's what it is. It is a voltage mixer. Start experimenting with it today. And that wraps it up, honestly. But my hand's just filling the screen. So that wraps it up. I hope that everybody had a good and educational time. My boyfriend, okay, yep. No, don't do it. Oh my gosh. I hope you all had a wonderful and educational time. I wanted to leave off this by, once you become familiar with your Mother 32, and once you start messing around with the synthesis paths that are available inside of its patch bay, you may find yourself wanting for more. And that's how I got into this hobby. I was like, wait, what if I just had a couple more LFOs? I just want a couple more LFOs, and that's it. What should you get next if you really want to rock with the Mother 32? And I highly suggest getting something. I just plugged into a Dirty Murals off screen. It's an adaptation of a pedal by Recovery Effects. It's actually quite affordable. A little bit of delay and reverb goes a very long way on the Mother 32. Expand and start making beautiful music right now. Dirty Murals is a great, very high character and actually very affordable delay and reverb that I think gets overlooked a lot because of how high character it is. It is dirty. It does sound dirty. It sounds dreamy and dirty and noisy. And it actually plays really well with the Mother 32. And it also actually kind of matches its aesthetic pretty well. So look up Dirty Murals by Recovery Effects if you're looking for your first effect for the Mother 32. And the Dirty Murals actually has modulation points for the mix, the amount of repeats in the delay, and how fast the delay comes. So you can start messing around with some really cool stuff with that, such as, oh gosh, what's it called, where... It's not the Dunning-Kruger effect. What's it called? It's the effect where a delay has very high hysteresis and it becomes the note itself. It's like a physical modeling technique. I'll remember it once I turn the stream off. Anyway, you can start messing around with it. In fact, let me do that right now so that you get a little preview. I'm going to change the time on the delay with a very slow LFO. And you start getting unusual, very alien effects. But I don't want to change it that much, you might say. Easy peasy. Plug it into the VC Mix, and the VC Mix can become an attenuator. So let's take our whole LFO triangle, plug it into the mix, and send just a little bit. Here's the full signal. And here's just a little bit. It becomes a little dreamier send it to the mix of dirty murals. So this is going to start fading. The effect will fade in and out. Or a lot, if you want it that way. And you can use the VC mix as what we call an attenuator. It changes how much of the LFO is reaching the dirty murals. That's it. Hope you all had a good educational time. Maybe if you've had one of these for a long time, you learned something about it. There's a lot of cool things you can do with the Mother 32. I'd love to do a different video of just cool patch ideas with the Mother 32. Might do that next week. Just another focus on Mother 32 patches and finding cool sounds that it can make. I'll just check in chat one more time before we leave. Thank you, Car Plus Strong. That's what it's called, where you have a very high hysteresis delay. I knew somebody would remember it. Car Plus Strong. So, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Join the EMS server. If you have a Mother 32 and you make a really good patch, stream it on EMS. We'd love to see it. Have a good time. I usually end with the thought of the day, but this isn't a normal Mother Desiccant stream. Should I still end with a thought of the day? Yeah. Let's do a thought of the day. Today's thought of the day is: they sought eternal bliss on a planet of a motionless enigma. Have a good week, everyone.